What's going on, guys? And today I'm continuing with the series I did earlier on. Don't know the exact title, but what I'm doing is I'm talking about every team in the NBA, and right now I'm going to do it by divisions, of course. So right now we're moving on to the Central Division, and of course the Central Division hosts pretty much, I think, the best division. Well, they are. In terms of, they have the Chicago Bulls, the Milwaukee Bucks, Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, and last but not least, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that this is the best one, as all the teams are very solid, and I believe that they can all make the playoffs in the East, while the rest of the divisions, I don't think they can all make the playoffs in their conference, so I think this is the best one. Anyways, besides that, let's hop right into the teams. First, I'm going to talk about the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are a pretty puzzling team to talk about, as the injuries with Derrick Rose and their big men getting older and them trying to play Mirotic more, it's kind of weird, the whole dynamic. However, I do think that this is a pretty solid team. I believe they beat the Pacers last night, and I think they can be a top 4 seed in the East, as the East isn't as strong in the top, it seems, this year. So I believe they'll do pretty well. They probably won't win the division. That's going to go to the Cavaliers. But I do like their team overall, and I think that they'll have a fairly solid season. So I don't know what else to talk about the Bulls. I mean, I think that they're going to do decent. They feel like a decent team. And there's no real storylines. Of course, I'm not too excited about the whole Derrick Rose thing, because he's becoming way too egocentric and arrogant for my liking. I mean, yeah, of course, everyone wants to be able to walk by the time they're 40, but you don't go out there and say, oh, I don't want to play as hard, so I don't risk it, or I don't want to try harder, or I want to just make more money. So that's my little thing on the Derrick Rose incident. And plus, his hair looks stupid. Come on, that's Jimmy Butler's look. Leave it to Jimmy Butler. Anyway, so that's pretty much my view on that team, so I'm going to go past them. There's nothing really too exciting to talk about. Well, next I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers, I believe they're the best team in the East, and they have the best chance out of anyone in the East to win the title, if not the leaders. I think the Warriors are a better team than them, so I don't think they're going to win it necessarily. But anyways, the Cavaliers are a very talented team. The thing is, they're doing well right now. I believe they're 8-2, 8-3, or 9-3, right around that, but they are leading the East, while still having Kyrie Irving out, and Kevin Love is still not mixing with LeBron. I don't know why. It's kind of upsetting, as Kevin Love was one of my favorite players back when he was in Minnesota, if he was not my favorite player overall in the entire league. And ever since he came to Cleveland, it just seems like he couldn't get along with LeBron, where they just couldn't figure out how to get shots from him, even though I believe he is a very solid guy to have on your team to be an all-around scorer. I mean, he did average, was it like 25 and 14 in Minnesota, or some numbers similar to that. However, he's not doing as much here. Of course, he's not a good defensive player, but seriously, I really wish to find a way that he can somehow be a better player. I mean, down in Miami, Bosh averaged, like 18 and 9, and he's a much worse, not much worse, but he is you can definitely say Love is better than Bosh. Of course, he's been dealing with injuries as well, but that doesn't mean anything. It's not fitting too well. Of course, I think that they should do better. They do have a lot of centers and big men, just like the Bulls, so they might need to trade them away. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out, but they also do have Iman Shumpert coming back in a couple months, I believe. So no matter how they're doing now, just there should be better getting a starting caliber shooting guard, because I mean, J.R. Smith, he's not that good for starting. He's better off the bench. So you're going to get a better starting shooting guard, and you're going to get your better starting point guard to make that team all around better, and hopefully relieve some stress off LeBron, and that he won't carry all those duties, because that might be the reason why he's having injuries and not doing as well. I don't believe he actually got injured, but he just doesn't look the same out there. Anyways, that's my view on the Cavaliers, and of course, I believe that they'll be one of the top teams in the East, if not the entire NBA. So watch for them in the playoffs. Next up, we are going to talk about the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons have been slipping mightily in the past few days. I mean, they start off the season extremely hot with Drummond, I believe, through the first 6 games, averaging 20 and 20, which is crazy. I mentioned before I do DraftKings, and I always picked him up because I was like, oh, Drummond, he usually puts up good stats, and it's going to be the first time that he has a team to himself. And I mean, he was just putting up ridiculous numbers, and he was absolutely great. By the way, I don't bet actual money on DraftKings. I just do free leagues, whether it be with friends or just the ones that DraftKings puts up. But anyways, I was like, alright, I want to see how this goes, and he just does amazing. And same thing with Reggie Jackson. When you got that huge, I believe it was an $80 million contract, he's proven to be worth it, at least so far. The rest of the team is kind of a question mark. I mean, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope looks solid, and same with Marcus Morris, but the starting power forward in Ersan Ilyasova, I don't really like it. I used to like Ersan back, I believe that was like 2012 seasons when he had like his breakout season. He had a bunch of really nice rebounding games. But it just seems like he trailed off, and he isn't doing too much now. I know Stan Van Gundy's trying to replicate the 2009 and 2010 Magic teams where they had the big center down low and they had a bunch of shooters around him. I think they're doing a decent job of this. Ideally, I would want to see Stanley Johnson starting at the 3. I like him as a player, and I feel like that would make their team more complete and move Marcus Morris over to the 4. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is fine being the starting shooting guard. He's a very good defensive player, and he's starting to become a very good shooter as well, so that's pretty nice to have. And basing that off the 2009 Magic team, of course, you got Dwight Howard and Drummond. While Drummond isn't as good as Dwight Howard at his peak, they're the same type of player, so that's good. Power forward, they had Ryan Anderson, I believe, was their guy back then. If not, it was Rashard Lewis. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's one of those two. And I think Rashard Lewis was the better option, and that guy would kind of reminds me of Marcus Morris, a 6'9", 6'10" combo forward, very good shooter. While Marcus isn't as great of a shooter, he is a very good all-around player, and he's a very defensive-minded guy like Rasheed Wallace. I forgot where I saw that comparison, but people were saying that they wanted him to be a Rasheed Wallace type of player, so I think that'd be very good. At small forward, they had Hedo Turkoglu, so a big ball handler who can shoot from deep. And Stanley Johnson, of course, he's only a rookie, but he can be a decent ball handler, I believe, as of right now. I haven't really watched him in the play pro, but I watched Summer League with him, and he seemed like a very solid player, and he is shooting pretty decently as well. Shooting guard, I believe, was J.J. Redick and Courtney Lee kind of shared minutes back there. Both of them were very solid outside shooters, and both had okay defense. Of course, Courtney Lee was better than J.J. Redick back then, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can fit that mold. Next, after those two, was Jameer Nelson starting at the point, and now we got Reggie Jackson. And they're not complete opposites, but Reggie Jackson is kind of a bigger slashing point guard who gets a lot of rebounds and steals. Actually, not steals, but he does try to get more defensive and physical, while Jameer Nelson was a much better outside shooter and playmaker. And while Reggie Jackson is a good playmaker, he wasn't the true leader that Jameer was, but still a very solid team all around. So I talked about the Pistons for probably longer than anyone really cares to talk about the Pistons, so let's go on to the next team, the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Pacers, of course, I don't know how to define them right now, because last year they barely missed the playoffs when they had Paul George for all of 6 games, and he didn't even do well during those 6 games. So that's why I believe that they could have made the playoffs. They did lose their 2 starting big men in David West and Roy Hibbert. Nevertheless, I wasn't a big fan of Roy Hibbert after his first All-Star year. Of course, I liked him that first All-Star year because he actually did pretty well, but then he just started to trail off, and I don't know, I just didn't appreciate him as much, and he doesn't seem that valuable anymore. And David West is getting older with age, so it was kind of smart for them to move to that younger direction, even though they didn't have a choice of David West as he left them. But anyways, with their lineup right now, the whole Paul George at the 4 doesn't make too much sense to me. I'd much rather see Miles Turner and Jordan Hill be in this 2 starting big men, even though Miles Turner is out. It'd be much more better with those two. But as of right now, putting Paul George at the 4, waiting for Miles Turner to come back, is probably the best option, as they don't have true center and big man depth, so he can kind of get away with it for a little bit. Oh, sorry, I needed a burp right there a little bit. Anyways, I think that this is a very solid team. They, as well, should finish probably bottom to the middle of the East, anywhere from about the 5th seed to the 9th seed. Ideally, they're in the playoffs. Oh, I just remembered the Pistons, by the way. I believe the Pistons will be a playoff team, but very, very, very bottom, like 8th seed. So there's not much trust. There's also a good chance they won't make the playoffs, but if they are, they're going to be a low seed. So going back to the Pacers, sorry I'm jumping around. I do like this team. Miles Turner seemed like a solid draft pick at this point, as he's pretty much a very good outside shooter and defender in the paint, which is a pretty unique combo. But anyways, I think that was a solid pick by them, and this is a solid team as of right now. In terms of they also do have long-term potential. Their oldest starting lineup guy, I believe, is Monte Ellis, who might have just turned 30 or 29, one of those two. And that's still pretty young. He's on a 2 or 3 year contract, so by the time his contract's up, he will be on in the decline, but they'll have him for probably the end of his prime, and he's playing really well this season. So is Paul George, George Hill, CJ Miles, my bad, and of course Rodney Stuckey. All those guys are very solid guards to have on that team, guards, forwards. So I like this team as of right now. Alright, let's move on to one of the most confusing teams right now. That's the Milwaukee Bucks. Before this season started, the Milwaukee Bucks gained a lot of hype where they were the dark horse favorites to be an Eastern Conference Finals contender. The thing is, I hate when teams are rewarded that, I don't know, award. I have no idea what to even say, but like when all the people on ESPN or all the analysts are like, oh, they're dark horse to win this, they're under the radar. But the thing is, literally fucking everybody, no lie, like every person I heard, oh, no one's expecting, no one's, I'm like, of course, well, if everyone's just saying no one's expecting them, everyone's gonna expect them, because I heard it everywhere, whether it be on SportsCenter, Bill Simmons, Jalen and Jacoby, because I listen to all their podcasts and stuff like that, and all they talk about was the fucking Milwaukee Bucks. Like, I don't hate the Bucks, I just hate every time before any season how much a team is overhyped, and they were overhyped out of their mind. I do love John Henson, but they won't start him as they signed Greg Monroe to a pretty big contract, even though I do think that he should be their starting center, as he does bring a defensive and not that great at rebounding, but an all-around good force down low. Ideally, the starting lineup for me would be Middleton, Jabari, Yanni, John Henson, and Greg Monroe in some fashion. Of course, that's not a true point guard, and there's no true point guard there. I'm not a fan of Michael Carter-Williams at all. I just feel like he was extremely overvalued when he was in Philly because of the fact that he was the only guy there who was a true NBA player at that time, I believe. I mean, Tony Roten was on there too, maybe. I don't even remember at that point when he was a rookie. So, with all that, I do think the Bucks were way overhyped. I don't think Middleton's having a great season so far, but I do think that this will be a very solid team. They shouldn't miss the playoffs. They should be anywhere from about 4th to 6th, somewhere in the range that they were last year. I do think that this is a solid team. I haven't watched Rashad Vaughn, their draft pick. I'm kind of talking about their draft picks as well, but I really don't remember anyone on Chicago or Cleveland, their draft picks. I'm going to feel really stupid once I figure... Oh, Bobby Portis was on Chicago, and he did really well in Summer League and everything else, but he just hasn't been doing anything in that real NBA because of the minutes restriction with all the other big men. But anyways, those are the teams. And of course, you know, I was talking about the Bucks, and I don't know, the Bucks, they were super overhyped. I still have a lot of faith in the Bucks. I think that they can be a very good team this year. But the thing is, I just hate when they overhype it. That's just a little bit of context, I guess I can say. Anyways, guys, so I'm getting towards the end of the video, and first off, I'd like to thank you all guys for watching. If you've been watching this whole thing, please give me a thumbs up and comment down below what you think about my predictions. Sorry, just kind of farted a little bit right there. And yeah, tell me what you think about my predictions for the rest of the season, or your own predictions. Subscribe for more of these videos, or tell me if you want to see more of these. And of course, share with your friends if they like the NBA or 2K, because I always put 2K on behind my talking. So thanks guys for watching, and of course, have a good day.